Maybe the other side.
Ini aku bilang mirror, setting gambarannya nggak ada settingan. Coba lagi bang. Ini coba lagi. Ini aja. Dari sini nanti. Ada pilih ada tadi. Sebut janji dengan peralatan seadanya.
Good evening, everyone. Shortly, we will start the talk show. So those who are still outside, you can come in and choose a seat. Please come in, you can choose any seat. Fill in the empty seats, please.
Pas nih. Seringnya nggak gue? Mana punya?
I will not be long. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Periplus Indonesia. And I will deliver the speech of Periplus. I'm so thrilled to be here this evening, surrounded by fellow book lovers to hear the experience of Mr. George Yeo. Give a round of applause, everybody. As we all know, Mr. Yeo was the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Singapore. Before we dive into the world of Mr. Yeo's musings, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude. First and foremost, I want to thank the organizers of the incredible event as well as Ms. Helen. We will explore and discuss some insights from Mr. Yeo's music and Ms. England, who will be the moderator of this event. To all of you gathered here, I would like to express a heartfelt thank you. Your presence this evening is a testament to the power of books and the joy of shared experiences. Your enthusiasm, insightful perspective, and willingness to engage in open discussion are what really make this event special. For us, Mr. Rio's music has been more than just a collection of words on a page. Reading a book is like experiencing a journey full of honesty, while at the same time opening up understanding, especially about what it means to be a statesman. This book has sparked conversations, ignited imaginations, and created a shared experience that binds us together. Yet, before we dive into the discussion, I would like to inform you that Periplus will hold a donation program to support children with cancer and also to commemorate World Childhood Cancer Day on February 15, 2024. Periplus will collaborate with Yayasan Itapini, a foundation that provides support and assistance for children with cancer. This program is called Fall to Care, and runs from January 1st to February 15th, 2024. To participate in the program, you can donate by free and writing your hopes on the paper. As all of us know, the crane is the symbol of hope. It is turned over. Those cranes then will be collected in a box and will be donated to the SNPW. I believe all of us here will support this program willingly. So, without further ado, let's dive to the power of musings, to the magic of short stories, and the amazing togetherness we have here this evening. Let's continue to explore, to discuss, and to be inspired by the worlds that lie between the pages. Please enjoy this video. We will continue with our moderator for today, Miss Anne. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Bapak Ibu, how are you today? Great. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Inji Martin, the moderator for today's discussion of Periplus Talk. As you may have seen on the poster, we have today's special discussion about being a good neighbor a la George Yeo. So our guests today are very special. Of course, we are here with Mr. George Yeo, a distinguished author and former Foreign Affairs Minister of Singapore, to discuss about his brilliant books, as you can see, the Musing series. And then we'll proceed to discussion with Ibu Hermi here, senior journalist and former chief editor of Temple English Week. Are you excited? Yes? Okay, let's dive deep into the book. First, let me introduce our special guest here, Mr. George Yeo, who is a distinguished author and former Foreign Affairs Minister of Singapore. Mr. Yeo served in the Singapore Air Force before becoming Member of Parliament, and then served as Minister for Information and the Arts, Minister for Health, Minister for Trade and Industry, and then Minister for Foreign Affairs. So, of course, as we are saying in Indonesia, sudah banyak makan garam, eating a lot of salt, which means you are very, very experienced in various fields. And surely there are a lot of treasured lessons to be learned. So please welcome with a round of applause to Mr. George. Okay, so let's dive into the first question from you, Mr. George. What an amazing, brilliant book that you have put with only one title, Musings. I think it covers a lot of topics that people are interested, whether in your personal or the political career that you have been in. But in your book, you have explored a lot of history, and today we're highlighting about being a good neighbor, especially highlighting ASEAN. So my first question would be, in a geopolitical map of 10 to 20 years, what will be the relevance and significance of ASEAN? And do ASEAN countries have the opportunity to level up to be more developed countries? Perhaps you can share us a view of ASEAN.
Thank you, moderating my session this afternoon. And I want to thank Ibu Hermi afterwards for being a fellow journalist. I want to thank Pak Guru and the good men and women of Periplus for providing me a platform to meet all of you this afternoon. And what a lovely platform it is. Just freshly opened with such a wide country in such an attractive mall. Thank you very much. And of course, my colleagues from the whole scientific, Dr. and others who are here to support this event. They have given my public. And all of you having time to join us this afternoon. Using the word is short because it's hard to cover the things which I cover, which are like daily life. We have thoughts, we have random thoughts, we have passions, sometimes we're angry, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we think of history, sometimes we think of food, culture. So it's kind of a relaxed way of writing and communicating with the reader. But there is a serious purpose, which is to share a certain philosophy of the world, history, and of the region. Indonesia is a country I visited the most in my life. And I asked myself why. I did not visit Indonesia till I was in my 20s. When I joined the Air Force, we had begun to have dealings with Indonesia. I felt I knew so little about Indonesia. The first thing I did was to join in the tour of Indonesia from Jakarta. And interestingly, I stayed in the Indonesian hotel, which, which at the time was a standalone hotel with the President Soekarno. Then we went to Bogor, Puncak, Tangkuban Prabu, and then we went to Jogja and then Bali. That was my first trip in Indonesia. And I was not an official, I was a military officer. I was with a group of Singaporeans who were more interested in shopping and sometimes going on in the evenings. And I remember one evening when we had good Javanese durians. But since then, I've been coming back again and again when I was in the military, after married, when I was in government, when I was in the business school. And this morning, I set another 4 batik shirts in anticipation of coming to Indonesia more often. Enlarge my wardrobe. Why being a good neighbor? Because if you want to have good neighbors, you must be a good neighbor. Then we have a good kampong spirit. So some political scientists are very cynical. They say, when you're a foreign minister, you have to cheat and lie for your country. I don't believe that. Because how often can you cheat and lie in another country? You'll find out. Then you'll be angry with you. Then the next time round, when you deal with them, that's all. So a much better basis is good neighborliness. Sometimes there are disagreements, talk about them. Compromise. Give and take. And always go to lawyer. You help me, I help you. And in the end, everybody is happy. That happily marked my 5 years as Minister for Trade and Industry and my 7 years as Minister for Foreign Minister, Vinandra Sasta, Tunki Aribo, Vini Swandi, Vini Smarmo, Daitan. As Prime Minister, I had the opportunity to work with Pak Ali Alatas, with Pak Awi Shihab, Pak Hassan Beryuga, and Pak Mat. And before that, when I was in the military, I got to know Benny Godani. And in 1988, I visited him when he was leaving the defense ministry. He was clearing his office. So he gave me a watch. And I still wear his watch today. The simple watch. He said he got 4 bintang. The mechanism swap, so I had it changed. Today is the first day I'm wearing it. Before that, I just kept it. I also have a box of his golf ball, luminous orange in color, also with umpat bintang on it. But I never use them. I just keep them as souvenirs. And I know Prisno, Casal, Cassandra, then Eddie Busmi from the Air Force in Ibio, and Pak Luhu Pandaitan, who is now a very important man. So, so over the years, I had the opportunity, and in my book, I talk about calling on Pak Suharto. I was minister in attendance to Gusdo. I met Ibu many times. Ibu Megabakti, of course, President SBY. When I was Minister for Information and Arts, I had a very good relationship with Pak Moko. I was at the time head of Boca and also responsible for culture. So over the years, got to know many Indonesians, all good friends. Some unfortunately have passed away, but I try to mention as many as possible in my chapter.
That's very interesting. You covering your relationship with Indonesia and how throughout your career years you have gotten and make a lot of friendship. I highlight that as well. In talking about forest fire in Riau, in your book, in series two, you said we have to show more understanding before complaining. We achieve more by being sensitive. I think this is a very interesting part because this is one of the very many examples of you highlighting cooperation and friendship. Please tell us more about the relevance of friendship in your career to become not only a good neighbor, but a good friend to all.
I remember because Indonesia used to forest fires and the smoke would come to Singapore. And one day I was in Hong Kong in the lift and some Indonesians were joking with some Hong Kongers. The Hong Kongers said, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear about the forest fires in Indonesia." And the Indonesians were very cheeky. They said, "Oh, don't worry, all the smoke went to Singapore." Of course, I kept quiet. But I know that when there are forest fires in Indonesia, you may not smell it in Jakarta, but you smell it in Sumatra. So I was a good friend of Zulkifli Nordin, governor of Jambi. Jambi. But I used to join the governors of Sumatra for their meetings when I was ministry Perdagangan. And I visited him in Jambi, and he told me that when he was a young man, he used to follow his father to deliver rubber to a go down along the Singapore River to a Mr. Sin. So one day he came to Singapore and I arranged for him to meet Mr. Sin. He was so happy and to see his old go down. So at that time, when there were all these forest fires, I called him up. I said, "Is there anything we can do to help you?" He said, "I'm still in Jakarta and I can't fly back to Jambi because the airport is shut down." So when the PMI in Singapore is 100, the PMI in Sumatra is probably 500 or maybe even 1,000. So it's important as a neighbor, when our neighbor's house is burning, we can't just complain about the smoke that's come to our house because his house is burning. And we must work together. And in fact, we had a program to cooperate in fighting forest fires between Singapore and Japan. So we had a good relationship, and it attests to the importance of good neighborliness.
Thank you. This topic, being a good neighbor, thank you to Periplus, is actually very close to home to me because we are literally neighbors, Mr. Rio. I'm from Batam. Yes, we are neighbors, that neighbors. So I think one thing that I want to let you know is that I'm from a small island called Batam Padang. It's very on the borderline of Batam. So what's funny is that in my island, people usually go to the Bay Area on 9th August because we can see the fireworks of Singaporeans Independence Day. So it's very close. You can literally see the buildings from my island. So a lot of my friends from Jakarta keep telling me how it's amazing that you are so close to Singapore because we cannot even see Bekasi from Jakarta. Right? It's the town, yeah, suburb town from here. Okay, so you mentioned about friendship and then also about relationship, neighborliness with Indonesia. Let's get back to your book. So, in retrospect, after you finished this pre-series of musings, what did you realize about your journey as a person, especially reflecting to how your career began and perhaps you are now seeing your children begin their career because a lot of Periplus readers are young people.
When I wrote the books, I did not know how people will respond to what I wanted to say. There's no guarantee that people will be interested in what I say. And I was not particularly optimistic that young people will be interested in what I have to say. But I was surprised when the books were published that there was considerable. And I think it's because in writing about my own experiences and observations, there was a resonance because they too also had similar experiences and observations in their lives and could therefore relate to what I said. And to my very surprise, I found similar reactions in other Southeast Asian countries. In Malaysia, where I launched the book, even in Phnom Penh recently, where the response was much better than I expected. And I think it's because we are more connected than we sometimes realize. That our experiences are more intertwined than we are often conscious of. So when I talk about the things that happen to me in my work, in my life, others say, yeah, similar things happen to me too. When I talk about illnesses in the family, about difficulties one face with the course of work and so on, people could relate to that. So because of this, musings turn out to have a wider readership than expected. And this gives me a lot of satisfaction and pleasure.
Yes, yes. Me too, as a young reader, I read it, and like I told you before, when you assigned my book, it makes me nostalgic of something that didn't even happen to me. Especially when reading your chapter of you having your academics abroad and you surviving as a young person receiving scholarship. So I think that resonates to a lot of people as well. Mr. Yo, in music, there like we mentioned before, there are many sparks of reflection shared with readers, and many of the stories feel very personal. Can you tell us about your childhood and family background, and if there are any childhood experiences that could be the foundation for a career, either in the military or politics, of course?
Well, I had an unremarkable childhood. Uh, my mother tongue was Teochew because my mother came from China at the age of 19, and that was only she spoke. She spoke no English, she spoke no Mandarin. She spoke some Bahasa Melayu, some Cantonese. So until she died, the conversation with her was in Teochew, which was her mother tongue. In school, because at the time we were joining Malaysia, so my mother said, let us do Malay, Bahasa Melayu as a second language. So I'm the only one out of all my siblings who did Malay as my second language. So I always regretted that I didn't learn Chinese when I was young. I could learn it as an adult, which was much more difficult. But in learning Malay, taking part in Kantong and Syair competitions, in a sense, I understood the culture much better. In the years when I was in politics, I had a very good relationship with the Malay community in Singapore. And I helped to establish the Malay Heritage Center. I was interested in the Bugis people, the Minang people, the Baoyan people, the Javanese, uh, the Hadramis. Because in Singapore, being Malay is a big category. But do you know they're from Pakistan? They are actually Javanese. I had a kampong in a constituency called Kampong Pakistan. Because the people came from Pakistan. And they used to have a camera. Then when they were resettled, the old men all brought back the instruments. So then the instruments were sacred. So later on, I wanted to reconstitute the gamelan. So we bought the gamelan set. But we found out that the old men, the old Javanese men, they did not want to teach those who were not their family members. But little by little, we overcome the obstacles. Then when SDY became president, when they was from Pakistan, I arranged for that gamelan group to perform in our istana to welcome him. I'm so proud of it. We have a gamelan Pakistan to welcome an anak Pakistan. So these are the little things that we do, which I talk about in the book, which is light-hearted, but in some ways also very serious. And in Singapore, when we talk to the Malay community, there's little details which are fascinating. For example, there's a kampong in Baoyan, Pulau Bayo, called Singapura. Because many of the people from there went to Singapore. And even till today, the Baoyan people in Singapore are divided into pondok, different pondok. So in discovering ourselves, whether you're Teochew or Hokkien, whether you're Baoyan or Japanese or Minang, whether you are Tamil or Malayali or Punjabi, we connect Singapore to the world. So Singapore can only be understood in relationship to a wider region. And Singapore lives by serving other people. The day we stop serving other people, we stop making the living. So coming back to the question of neighborliness, Singapore depends on its neighbors. Without its neighbors, Singapore is nothing. Singapore, by helping its neighbors, helps itself. And that underlies much of what I talk about in the films. And when you ask me about my childhood, so in little ways, like a little thread, in an ikat, little ways it links things together. And many threads, your threads all weave together, and they have beautiful fabric in the end, which is one fabric. We have contributed specific threads.
Pakcik masih jawab Melayu?
Sedikit.
Sedikit. Testing the waters, since I speak Malay on my daily basis. Okay, so you talk about your relationship with Indonesia and then the neighbors with the Malay communities. How is Singapore's relations with its neighbors differentiated? Do you see how your legacy, perhaps, with what Singapore government is doing right now towards Indonesia is perhaps different towards Malaysia or perhaps towards other ASEAN government countries, as you've written in your book?
Before the Europeans came, people moved up and down. Here from Batam, Bintan, Anianyat, Padang Belakang, is all part of Johor area. And after Malacca fell to the Portuguese in 1511, two groups were formed. One group into Perak, the other group came out of Johor. And from Johor, the capital was sometimes in Kota Tinggi, sometimes in Kota Lata, in Johor Lama, sometimes in Pontianak, sometimes all the way to Singkep, in India. So this is one region. Then when the Europeans came, we were divided. So Batam Bintan part of the VOC, or we were part of the British side. And the evolution took place under different influences. The languages diverged. So now, the end of colonialism with ASEAN, well, we discovering one another and rediscovering all these old connections, which is why I think it's very good that Singapore is now getting closer to the Real, to the Free, and beyond, and also to Malaysia. But bilaterally, the opportunities and the challenges are different with Indonesia than with Malaysia. With Malaysia, because we are actually one people divided into two countries. So there are a lot of problems because of that politics. Indonesia, we were separated a long time ago, and now we're discovering our kinship. But on the whole, we both Malaysia and Singapore, our relations now are excellent. And I think there are many opportunities for the future for greater cooperation.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Yu. May we give a round of applause, audience? All right. So as much as I want to dig into more of this books with Mr. Yeo, I would open for three questions, I think. Will be okay. Okay. Maria, we can open for three questions, yeah? Okay. For those who want to ask, Mr. Yu, please prepare your question and then you may raise your hand. I think we have come into the Q&A session. Who wants to be the first um, uh, person to ask? Okay. Yes, Bapak, please introduce yourself. Yes.
Hello, Mr. Wu. My name is David. My email is Hugo. I'm a fan of Hugo. Okay, I see this. To be honest with you, I haven't read your book. I just got the notification last night from Hugo, so it wasn't there. And then congratulations, Hugo, because I never know there's a store in here. You know, before the movie store in Plaza Indonesia, so I parked there. So I have to walk from there to here. Yeah, congratulations. Anyhow, but I'm very happy because at your age, you're very, very innovative. I don't know if I can do that also. Okay. And when I see you already have three books, which is basically people are reading it because you're not going to publish the second or the third, people are reading it. And this is wonderful. And I want to know what sort of legacy after this book that you want to put it on your family. You know, not big, just the family, for your children, for your grandchildren, or whoever the matter of the family. That's my first question. My second question is, you also have a statement. Somebody who's been around for a long time, and you see the region. And we as a region look at Singapore as a model since the 1960s, the oil boom, housing, development, etc. It's remarkable. And Singapore achieved a lot. They are one of the top cities in the world right now. Economy also very good. What I want to ask you is, um, you talked about the neighborhood country. I want to ask whether what the next generation can do to assimilate this condition, because we just passed off a couple of years ago, and that was devastating for all of us. But the one that hurt the most actually is Singapore, such a small country with deep fall economic um, height. Yeah. So I want to know what kind of legacy for your family and the legacy that you put on on the neighborhood country, especially the next generation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bapak, for your question. Yes, okay. Mr. Yu, do you want to answer that? Like straight away, or do you want to keep the questions first? Okay, you can answer. You can answer.
I don't feel old enough to want to write for legacy reasons. But I did dedicate my last book to my children, but with a prayer that their lives will be a blessing to others. And the Almighty gave us life. For a brief period, the collection of atoms become you or me or somebody else. And during that period, let that collection of atoms be a blessing to others. Then that life is worth living. We, we want to take more credit than we do goodness. But very often, we're only able to do things because conditions allow us to do things, and other people are helping us. So we should not take too much credit, and maybe no one should take all the blame for things to go. So this is a kind of a philosophical ethic that I have. I'm a little Taoist in that regard. I tend not to be too happy, not too sad. Because I see myself as just being uh, a transient in the flow of time. As to relations among the younger generation, I'm in fact I'm hopeful for ASEAN because the world is fragmented, multipolar. The US wants to bring China down, but China will not be brought down. And China strikes fear in Japan, in India, in other places. Then we have the war in Ukraine. And now the Russians and the Europeans are fighting. So Russia and China getting closer together. So this is the world we're entering. Fragmenting, polarizing. People are all anxious. Because of all these anxieties, it's very important that in Southeast Asia, in this neighborhood, we stay together. So in my book, I said ASEAN is held together not by love, but by fear. That if we are not a neighborhood peaceful, we are in danger. Then all the big powers will come in to interfere. So as ASEAN becomes more coherent, stronger, I think young people will know each other better. But we must push this in education, in cultural cooperation, in scientific exploration, in business. Know the region. Love. So last Christmas, I brought my family to Bintan, spend a good day. The previous Christmas, we all went to Malaysia. Yes, it is more fashionable to go to Japan, skiing, or to Europe, or to safari in Africa. But I think it's much more meaningful to know our own region. Because this is where we live, this is where our neighbors are. These are the people who we get to live with and in a crisis depend on. So I'm not pessimistic, not complacent, because a lot more must be done.
Oh, that's a really good answer. Give it a round of applause. Okay, are you ready for the second person to ask one question, perhaps? Okay, silakan. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to ask whether in your personal life growing up, you have experienced being a neighbor or a good neighbor in your personal experience that affect your professional decision or action when you're foreign minister? Okay, thank you, Mbak. Atas nama, maaf nama saya Puri. My name is Puri. Okay, Makuli, thank you for your question. So it talks about being a good neighbor in personal life and then how it affects your professional life.
When I was a member of parliament, as a member of parliament, I had to go around door to door to meet constituents. And many residents are tormented by bad labeling, by noise, by plants, by smells, by all kinds of things. As a member of parliament, I knew that many of these problems I cannot solve. Because if you try to solve them, you create more problems. What you try to do is to ask for understanding. And sometimes you need to be a good listener. So that the person who's angry coming to see you knows that you have heard his complaints and you understand his feelings. You need to talk. And the problem is never 100% solved, but you can reduce it. And when people know that others understand, they feel better. In foreign relations, it is the same thing. Singapore always had issues in Indonesia over sand, over trade data, over boundaries, over forest fires, over defense cooperation, many things. But slowly, with understanding, many of these problems, big problems can be made small, and small problems can be solved. But if you don't trust one another, small problems become big, big problems blow up. Then we're all in trouble. So I remember one issue where working with Pak Hassan Burayuda, we were able to make an impact. This was after several matches. At the time, the Western powers wanted to use the disaster to interfere in the domestic politics. The French wanted to send aid by warships. So the military government, instead of sending supplies to the Delta, sent troops to the Delta, thinking that the Westerners want to invade. So they did not want help from the UN. I happened to be in the chair of ASEAN, and we communicated with the Myanmar Foreign Minister. I remember what Pak Hassan said. He looked at him and said, "What do you mean to us? And what do we mean to you?" In other words, we are family, we are a neighborhood. You have problems. We are trying to help. You say no because you are afraid. You could hear a pin drop. I adjourned the meeting for lunch. And I asked the Foreign Minister of Myanmar, I said, please reflect this conversation back to your country. After lunch, he said, we agree. Let the UN come in. But through us. So when we work together, problems which could not be solved could be solved. But if we don't work together, problems which could not be solved will not be solved. That's ironic.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I think we can proceed to the last question. I think we are offering one question coming from Mrs. Henry. Muhammad, please, if you want to ask one question, perhaps you can ask directly to Mr. Yu.
Terima kasih banyak. Thank you very much. And my question is a little bit journalistic question. And actually, we spoke it already, yeah, but I would like to underline it once again. In my work, the short term is the better. The short term, the better. And the making the short material in short and concise is very challenging in writing work. So for me, it's amazing I'm not trying to drag you because I'm the second talk. Really, this one, I would like to underline this that it's amazing that how you can pick one word only, one noun only, use it to represent the 54 chapters of the book, 150,000 words in one book only. So how's the process, sir? How's the process? It's like 1 minute process, or you think it's over and over? You have different platform, the publisher, or with the writer, or you just sit down with the paper and one pen copy and you decide. And you send it to us.
I had two colleagues with whom I collaborated on one Taiho, who's the interviewer, and a young research assistant called Keith Young. And we did discuss what the title should be, George Yeo's memoirs or views of the world. I thought memoirs don't capture what I wanted to convey. Views sounded too much like Lee Kuan Yew, which I don't think I should uh, compare myself to. Because the book is a bit looser, more philosophical, more speculative, and maybe in some ways a bit more elaborate. So I wanted it to be musings from Changi Point. Changi Point is nearby I live, my favorite part of Singapore. And I thought, no, just music. So I asked my colleagues, what do you think? Oh, they liked it immediately. So the word resonated and got stuck. I have a wonderful, I have a wonderful publisher. They stated their views, but in the end, they accommodated me. So, for example, when I wanted to include so many pictures in the book, they said, this is not done. This is not done political memoirs, autobiographies. I said, no, this is not memoir, it's not political biography. Treat it like a travelogue. And it turned out to be more successful than we expected. Because it made the book lighter, more accessible, more readable. And you can read the book, you can look at the pictures, read and see the pictures together, separately. And I think the publisher family agreed that it was a good thing. But we had a conversation. In the conversation, the book was improved. But I must say that on the whole, they've been extremely accommodating, for which I'm very grateful.
Thank you, Muhammad. Thank you, George Yeo. Yes, I agree with Muhammad wholeheartedly. This pre-series is only one title, Musings, but it really covers all all the topics that have been discussed here. And I think yes, putting the pictures here make a really nice touch because we are more involved in the story and how you grew up, yes, um, and how your professional career unfolds, especially in Indonesia part. In series two, you can see how Mr. Yo actually has lots of Indonesian friends, made a lot of Indonesian connection. But personally, my favorite picture is this because it says Batam. It's in Batam, so it's a really nice touch. Yes, Batam Industrial. Yes, because not a lot of books in Jakarta or international or even Indonesian books cover about my town. So this is a really personal thing to me. But Giorgio, okay, so I think because the question and answer session is over, unfortunately, because now a lot of us have more questions for Mr. Yo, but we are sorry because unfortunately, Mr. Yo has somewhere else to go. So I think we can conclude one more thing is about you with your books, musings, and how it means being not only a believer but also a good statesman, because this is a topic that you covered in your three books, being a statesman. So, how do you describe that, being a good statesman?
There are many things we can't change in the world, and we have to accept reality for what it is. Sometimes an individual in a particular position can affect the direction in which the river flows. And at that critical moment, that person plays a decisive role. And the judgment of that person at that point in time, at that moment in history, can make a difference between black and white. And that's where statesmanship comes into play. A person who sets up to be a statesman, I think will not be a good statesman because he will be subjective. But a person in a particular position and he says, no, this is wrong. In 1998, a critical moment when Suharto gave up power and General Uranto was Panglima Agung. That was a critical moment. He could have taken Indonesia back to the past. But I said no. So I wrote about it in the book. I don't know Uranto well, but I always felt that at a critical moment, he made a decision which affected the fate of a country and hundreds of millions of people. That's a statesmanship. But if you say that I want to be the hero, and you do things which are against larger forces, you will bring tragedy to your people. So in my reflections, statesmanship is a function of understanding history, historical and cultural forces. And it involves from the players who are in that position moral courage. It's always easier to do the easy thing, to be selfish, and to take the easy way. To look the other way, don't get involved because it's messy, but it's risky. But to say no, I will do it. So when we in Bangkok 2 days ago, we visited the Afro-Asian Center, we went to ITB, we went to the tempat menggantung, where Soekarno was tried. Kan? What's it called? Menggantung? Huh? Menggugat. Yeah. Mahkamah menggugat. Yeah, something like that. I understand menggugat. I agree. So at critical moments, either you are a coward or you're a hero. That's his mission.
Thank you. Give it a round of applause. What it means of statesmanship and how it relates to history. So I think Pak George Yeo here underlines that we as Indonesians have to understand our history better as well because Mr. Yeo, a Singaporean, understands our history and it can relate to his career and how he keeps the good relationship with us, with our government. So, because Mr. Yo has somewhere else to go, unfortunately, I'm sure we all want to dig deeper. But because this is the closing for the session with Mr. George Yo, I invite Periplus team, Mas Rudy, okay, to the front. And this, we have the token of appreciation from the Periplus team. Yes, please. Give it a round of applause. Thank you, Pak Yudo. Okay, documentation team, you ready? Okay, Bu Jennifer. Okay, please take a picture together with Mr. Yudo. Thank you, Bapak. Thank you, Ibu.
After this, we are going off for Minister the Health Minister, because my wife is up to organize a yayasan Indonesia for children with cancer. So there'll be a MOU signing between the yayasan, which will be headed by Pak Subito there, and the health ministry. And Mr. Budi will be the witness. So that's why we have to leave quite soon. I'll be happy to sign books if any of you would like the books to be signed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Give a round of applause. Thank you, Pak George Yeo. So, Team Periplus, is there anything else? Okay, it's clear. Thank you so much. May we take pictures together to close this? And then please stay on your seat because later we will be having more discussion, deeper discussion with Blue Heron. Is there any more people here to get the book signed?